20 men and women are confined in correctional institutions throughout New England. This one, Walpole, is a maximum security prison in Massachusetts. It has a population of 500 to 600 men serving sentences from about 2 years to life. It would still be typical of the 12 major prisons in New England, except for some events in its recent past. A lockup, which lasted over 2.5 months for some men, was answered with a general work strike throughout the institution. This was followed by an unprecedented strike and walkout called by the Correctional Officers Union. The guards, who were normally present in the corridors at all times, preferred to leave their positions unattended rather than see certain prisoners released from their long segregated confinement. The prisoners told us what happened.
There was a warden here by the name of Raymond Perel, and he was strictly security. And he come in here and he closed the prison down December the 29th. And when he closed it down, he locked everybody in 24 hours a day, and they went from cell to cell, searched the whole place.
We were locked up for 35 days without showers, clean clothing, visits, attorneys' visits. Newspaper people couldn't get in here, nobody. During the 35 days, we were yelling and screaming in the cells and swearing at the guards as they were walking by. Guys were being taken out of their cells, and they were being bundled by 4 and 5 guards and 6 guards at once. And we all could look out and look at these guys doing this. They really did a hell of a job on some guys. And that just made us stronger and stronger. And we would yell and scream at the guards, spit at them, throw urine at them, throw human waste at them. And when they let us out, guys started burning desks and whatever belonged to the screws, they burnt. All the time, the guys were in the disciplinary blocks, 9 and 10 especially, still going without showers all this time. Anyways, when we finally got out, we made a demand that we wanted to get rid of Raymond Perel. They offered all kinds of different things to individuals. We said, no, we can't get along with a madman like him.
The guards union called us into the situation, and they asked us for our cooperation to help them get the prison back to order. The next day, a press release was sent to all the newspapers that the inmates were running the prison. We was called 3 times. 3 times we sat down, 3 times we tried to help, 3 times we got stabbed in the back. We got called the 4th time, we didn't go.
They were feeding us bologna sandwiches in the cells. All this time we were eating cold food. Breakfast was a bowl of cornflakes, powdered milk, and coffee like that you wouldn't even want to drink. Of course, the screws were making all this stuff. We don't know what they were doing to it, but we know at one time they were urinating in the tea, believe it or not, and they were putting soap powder in certain foods and stuff like that. You could taste it. So we told them, okay, that's it, forget it, right? We're not recognizing Perel. We're not cooperating with anybody. We're not working or anything else. When it come down to it, Perel finally resigned. He couldn't take it any longer because we just would not cooperate in any manner, way, or form. Not an inmate would do a lick of work. And without inmates running an institution, working and keeping it clean, then how the hell are they going to run it? Now, when we did finally get out, our second demand was to release the men that were locked in 9 and 10 blocks, who had gone 78 days without showers, without ever coming out of their cells, without clean clothing of any type. All the guards got together and they told the acting warden at that time, I forget his name, they had so many of them since then, they had about 8 of them here, that if he released the men from 9 and 10, that they would walk off the job. Before he even made a decision, the guards got together and walked off the job, which left nobody here.
They're the ones that say they're in fear of their lives because they've done something to somebody.
Right.
They should expect a reprisal. Just put something in someone's food, you have to beat them half to death, and you expect them to, when you come back in, to shake your hand or pat you on the back. Sure. I'd be scared too if I beat the hell out of someone in here and there's 500 of them in here. I wouldn't come back either.
So we told them to get some outside observers in here as neutral coordinators, just to observe both sides, that just might work and hold the place together, rather than people dying, because it was right down to a dying situation. If the state troopers come in, somebody would have died. A lot of us would have died. I don't know if they would have died, but we certainly would have given it a good fight.
When we visited Walpole, the prisoners had ended their work strike. The guards were still out, and we found an entire society at work. A very complex society that puts out official state documents, records in printed forms, building materials, light handicraft, license plates for the registry of motor vehicles, and 1,800 meals a day for its population. And so it has its workers, its employers, its organizations, its cooks, craftsmen, educators, even its artists, its administration, and its police. But this administration doesn't pay its workers any minimum wage. It doesn't offer them adequate job safety or health care or adequate education and job training. Twice a day it locks them behind bars for a population count. It locks them up every night. And it has the power to lock them up indefinitely. But as a result of the last lockup and the unprecedented walkout by the guards, an organization of prisoners, the NPRA, or National Prisoners Reform Association, had emerged in a position of leadership among the men. We talked with NPRA members inside Walpole.
Before Raymond Perel came here, this was one of the most racist prisons in the country. This prison was terrible.
Everybody was mad toward Raymond Perel because he abused our manhood, he abused with our families, he abused with everything.
He did us a favor. He said, you're all dirt, and we're going to treat you like dirt. He said, well, if we're all dirt, we're going to be dirt together. And that's just what we did.
He created a unity, Raymond Perel did, but a unity isn't nothing unless you've got self-discipline and education. So that's what NPRA did. They undertook the task of educating the cons and teach them what self-discipline was all about. Now, we educated the cons as to not ripping off their brothers, not ripping them off for their personal property, because we are ripped off by the system. We're ripped off for our families, our loved ones, our kids, our wives, our daughters. And now, if a con rips off another con for his personal belongings, he becomes what the system is. He becomes a pig, see? And so, we educate the cons as to not becoming pigs, to stay together in a unity. So we've got the unity plus the education and the self-discipline. Not only that, in any prison you'll find rapes. We stopped at Walpole. We don't have no more rapes. Very seldom does a man get ripped off his personal property. Now, how we educate these men, we don't educate them but through brute force as a disciplinary squad would do. As a goon squad would go in and break somebody's head because he's stealing from someone or because he's raped someone or he's done something wrong. We will approach the person and we will educate him. We will embarrass him, so to speak, in front of his peers. All the men in the block will call him in front of all the men in the block and ask him why he did it and educate him as to the fact that he's becoming a pig if he continues to act like that. The majority of the men that we've talked to like that put their head down, would be greatly ashamed, and would thank us and say they were sorry. You pat him on the back, give him a cigarette, and say, that's all right, it's no big thing. Just be our brother, as we're your brother.
At the present time, we have been recognized by the Department of Correction, just as the NPRA's sole bargaining power of the inmates in the population. What we're working for now is certification as a union here in Massachusetts. Hopefully we'll branch to Norfolk, Concord, Framingham, all the county jails and across the nation. And when I say certification as a union, we want minimum wages. We want outside industries to come in here. Either that, give us, the same kind of pay you would pay someone else to make them license plates. We want safety standards. A man can go into a shop, and many have done it, work one of the machines and take half his arm off. I've seen men with the whole hand gone. Young guys ain't not even supposed to be running the machine. 17 years old, his hand was gone. We want that. We want, like the guards, they're not responsible. They can do anything they want in this institution and get away with it. If we become a union like they're a union, we can take them to court for that.
We're being undermined constantly by the administration.
Both sides.
On both sides, right? The administration and the Department of Correction. They use certain tools against us. The Department of Correction has the furlough, which they use as a tool. Right now, no one's getting furloughs. So that's to bend the men. Later on, they'll start implementing furloughs, and the ones that they give them to will be probably the leaders, guys like us. And then they'll try to bend us to their will. We'll give you a furlough. Now you do this for us. You do that for us. That's already been tried with me.
How are we going to fight that?
How are we going to fight it? It's the same way we fought in segregation. They had me in phase 1, and a lot of the guys in phase 1, they asked us if we wanted to move to phase 2. If we were good, we could move to phase 2. We told them to stick phase 2. We'd stay in phase 1. That's how you fight it. Now, they offer me the furlough. They say you have to do this in order to get a furlough. I'll tell them, well, stick to furlough.
We watched the men in Block 4 take their own count. Their elected representative orders the doors closed. They are controlled electronically by a guard stationed in this booth opposite the 3 tiers of cells.
I'm on the auditorium now. What? Yeah, only 21. Only 45.
Some cells are being held open for latecomers. Today, the representative is working in the company of a cadet guard and some civilian observers.
Gentlemen, my name is Walter Tyler. I represent Block 4, and I'm dead serious about my whole issue. Because we were accused, not convicted, accused, not convicted, accused of a charge. And therefore, a system we function under put us here. We want to change the system. And we are proving to society that we are capable and qualified to govern ourselves to the extent of the word. This jail, from now on out, this jail like Walpole before, jammed up, killing and so forth and so on, forget it. You understand me? And I can assure you, brothers, all you brothers, from outside and whatnot, right? We are representing Walpole. We say we can govern ourselves, and we have been doing that. No matter who come in here, they cannot take advantage of an inmate, govern an inmate. Turn this out. These guys work in the kitchen.
The cadets are young trainees without uniforms. They are the only guards now that the old officers have walked out. In the old system, the guard took the count. He could mark a man absent if he was not standing in sight at his door for the full half hour.
15 is present. Now, the reason why we take this method, right, for correction officers not concerned, right, is because every man is not in his room at count time. When the doors are closed, it's because the man is assigned to a different area or the institution.
You know, when the officers was here, there was a lot of forcing going on. If a guy didn't work, he gets locked up. He gets locked up in his room. So now we're faced with the problem of trying to get help without that force. A lot of guys volunteer, and we have about 32 men that are regular kitchen workers. That is, every morning you don't have to go look for them. They're right here, and you can depend on them. I would say that things are going better. I might have to work long hours. I might have to go on the cook line and help out. I might have to come back here and screw up this floor. But it's my job to see that it gets done. So why tell a man to do something that I wouldn't do myself? See, I'm not that type. If I ask someone to do something, I get right in there with them. And that's what's the problem with the outside cooks. All they was doing is pointing fingers, say, do this, do that. They didn't have to cook. They didn't have to touch a pot over there. Right? We were cooking that. Right? They didn't have to serve the line. Right? They didn't have to scrub a floor. They didn't have to do nothing but open and close those boxes and go over there and give orders, say, you scrub over here or you serve over the line over here. That's all they had to do. It was a waste of money, really. They didn't waste no time because they ate the whole while they was here, and they sit down and drink a whole lot of steak coffee, so it wasn't no time wasted. But it was a whole lot of money wasted. That's the main thing that was wasted.
Number one, they were corrections officer cook or corrections officer chef. Number one, they were corrections officers. So their job here was custodial primarily, because right in their civil service exam that they must know how to handle firearms and so forth. And they were just here like overseers to make sure that the inmates who were doing the work here weren't stealing. I've been following news programs recently, these different fraud cases and stuff like Watergate and whatnot. Now we have a situation here with these corrections officers, cooks. There's 7 of them. I understand one of them quit, so maybe there's only 6. But these guys are coming in here every morning, and they're punching in outside in that guard room. They're punching in, and they're being paid that $190 or that $210 or $230 or whatever the case may be. They're being paid every day for being here. Now, before they were being paid, they had to come in here and do nothing. Now they're not even coming inside and doing anything. They're doing nothing out there. They're playing ping pong, or they're leaving. They're punching in and leaving the premises, going back home. And they're being paid every day. Now this is fraud. There's a scandal there. You know, if you're paying that one guy $210 a week, let's say, why can't you take the people you have in responsible, your inmate workers in here, and make them resident employees of the state and pay 3 of them $70 a week?
We asked the first cook in what ways his job was differently defined now that the officers were gone.
I'm accountable to the inmate population for exactly where their food is going. See, no one handles those keys with the exception of myself, the kitchen manager, and the kitchen supervisor, who's also our first baker here. It used to be like, to be quite frank and honest with you, it was a hustle in the kitchen. Every guy that worked in the kitchen could make a little hustle for himself if he didn't have any money, see? Just like any other of the shops here, whether it be the laundry or whatever the case may be, the print shop, a guy could had a chance he could make himself a little hustle in here. And I could do quite well as first cook, and Mr. Nichols here working with me, we could make quite a little hustle if we wanted to. But now that I've got keys, now that I am responsible, I'm lucky, you know. I can't put my hands on anything. I can't do nothing no more because I owe, you know, I have a responsibility to the population because I'm looking out for their food so that I can give them more than they were having before.
We work and we want to get paid as, you know, as a minimum wage, you know, $1.60 an hour. I don't know, I'm working, and I don't know if I'm getting paid or not. As far as I know, we're getting 35 cents a day. All my families, most of them, they're in Puerto Rico, and if I can, you know, have a minimum wage in here, you know, I can send some to my family.
It trains them for nothing. It qualifies them for employment in any state prison in the country because it's the only place they make number plates is in state prisons. You see, so, and then they kick them out cold on the street after 3 or 4 years of making number plates, and then they're supposed to be rehabilitated. Why don't we deserve the minimum wage if we're doing the work that they'd have to pay on the street?
If a guy is making $1 a day or something like that, right? When he goes out, them prices are sky high out there, so he's going out with $100 or something. The only thing he can buy is a gun. That's all he can buy. And then he's right back where he started.
See, these are the programs we want to get away from. We want to set up more programs like this printing apprentice program. Put men out there, give them a half a shot, you know, with a saleable skill.
We have a printing apprenticeship program here. Now, under this program, we're under contract of indenture, which is a regular contract. As you know, an apprenticeship thing is a step thing on the street. Every 6 months, the man gets a pay raise. This is what happens here. So the time that the men serve in here, that means the longer time they have in, the higher pay scale they're going to go to on the outside. So there's light at the end of the tunnel, you know what I mean?
Across the hall from the state-financed schoolroom is the new adult basic education program, which the prisoners have set up independently.
You know, we can remodel this whole school because what you see across the hall is nothing. We don't have enough textbooks here. We don't even have no decent desks in here. That's all the desks you see over there. And you got 600 guys in this institution who wants to come to school, and what they gonna sit in, 55 chairs? So I set the room up by myself. I put the cabinet, I fixed the books up, I put draperies up in here. There's no sense for the Department of Correction paying a teacher $8,000 to come into Walpole to teach. And here I am, qualified, got a college degree, have teaching experience. Here's a man just got out of college, no teaching experience. You can take that $8,000 and we can use it here at Walpole. This teacher comes in here from 8 to 4, he picks up his check, boom, he's gone. We're here 24 hours. We know what the guys in here need. They're going to come in and tell us what they're going to teach us. And how you teach a brother from the ghetto some 50-syllable word. I know how to relate to the guys. The guys are coming down here. There's no shucking and jiving. Because, see, I'm for real with the guy.
How many hours do you work a day?
I total about 14 hours a day. 14 or 15 hours a day.
How much you get paid?
35 cents a 7-day week period. Which is not right. Because $5 and $5.80 go in my savings and $4 go in my personal to spend. So that's supposed to be my money and everything. Cause see, like it is, I'm doing a naturalized sentence, so this is permanent home to me. And I want to try to set up a good curriculum here at the school and everything.
Observers are admitted to Walpole. They are volunteers. Their job is to observe the activity in the prison and to report any abusive situations. They are admitted in continuous regular shifts at 7 a.m., 3 p.m., and an all-night shift at 11 p.m. Women observers are not admitted in the prison itself. This observer will remain in the visitors' waiting room as a coordinator for this shift. The men, at least, wearing identifying armbands, are free to eat with the prisoners and to talk with them in all areas of the prison. The guards, on the other hand, are confining their presence to security control points, such as the visitors' waiting room. In the main corridor, they stand behind the shatterproof windows through which the men must signify their intention to pass through to the visiting areas. In this situation, the NPRA has taken on many responsibilities, including the admission procedure for new prisoners.
Any other problems or anything else that you need now? I am the representative for down here. As far as a phone call, if you want to call you, inform your people or anything else, where you are, or anything else, we can do this. We haven't been granted the right to have you make the phone call yet. It's being negotiated, but we don't have an administration to negotiate with.
Anything, ask me, and if you have any upstairs, you'll let the NPRA know if there's any problems bothering you, family problems, anything like that.
Go ahead, All right, bring him in. All right, bring him in. Big rally. Big rally, team. Bring him in. Larry, just let him come out. They can't catch them hot ones. Come on. That's the hot guy. Come on.
Prisoners no longer have to see their family in the confines of a waiting room under the scrutiny of guards. The playground equipment was not furnished by the state, but by the NPRA.
You have an exhibit?
Where?
Oh, this one in particular and others that I have are going to be exhibited May 4th at the Museum of Fine Arts.
Have you ever exhibited before?
A couple of times at Harvard, a few times at the State House, and a few other private exhibitions by different people.
Did you ever win any prizes or anything? Any recognition?
I won 3 first prizes at Harvard. I was accepted to go to the New England School of Art. I took a test while I was in here.
How long you been in, Peter?
Too long.
Too long?
18 years.
18 years? When do you see the parole board? When can you hit the street?
I don't see the parole board and I don't hit the street. Here forever.
We'll have like a 20,000 list eventually. At least 20,000. Let's get about 10 guys that will contribute with typewriters.
This tiny cell in Block A3 has become the headquarters of a public education campaign.
There's 130 lifers in this institution, and throughout the state there's about 300 lifers, which is a very large amount. And the reason why it's so large is because they have to stay in prison for 15 or 20 years, in some cases longer, without having a chance to get out on parole. And this is particularly pertinent to the younger offender. Why say that man must serve 15 years before you decide on whether or not to let him out? It should be done much, much sooner than that. And a long pull, in my opinion, after 25 years of servitude in prisons, I'm convinced that it would reduce crime. Statistics prove this, of course. And what we're trying to do is educate the public, and we're trying to say that if you will lower the time spent in prison for a lifer, or at least lower the mandatory requirement, that's what we're asking. And we say that other states are doing this successfully. That is the reason for these letters. I've sent out about 3,500, and I expect to send out about 4,500 more within the next, say, 10 days, 15 days.
The inmate artist submitted this picture here. Prisoners' Rights, Prison Reform Support, NPRA. The colors are going to be red and green. I spoke to the guys in the print shop. I figure we get like 1,000 copies done.
I think it's heavy enough. I approve of it, you know.
All right, that's all.
The directors of the NPRA at Walpole are meeting to review the existing situation and to anticipate future developments.
Which I'm affiliated with.
I'd like to add something myself as far as the officers and inmates.
In Walpole, the guards walked out and said, "To hell with everybody," right? They left us to kill each other.
While their biggest criteria at that time, we all know, was security.
At night.
Responsible to them are the members of over 20 committees. The men who manage the kitchen, the hospital, the distribution of mail, educational programs, industrial production, and all block representatives are charged with solving internal problems. If a more general problem comes up, the board discusses it. The board's policy is then brought in turn before the prison population for discussion and approval. In case any member of the board is suddenly transferred to a segregation unit or to another prison, he is immediately replaced by a committee member.
By 11 o'clock anyway.
Because since they left, there's been no stabbings, no nothing. Security come almost on the basis of respect. See? Now they're trying to figure out, well, they said we went out on strike, you know, 'cause they thought inmate mentality was foolish. They said now we got to get our power back. See? They want their jobs back. They want to be able to take the count. You know, they want to be able to run the kitchen, the foundry, and all these things that we're doing more efficiently than they are, and for a lot less money. And they know once we can make the public know that a prison can be run by us, that we can govern ourselves, meaning that there's no one outside to get hurt, like a guard or something like that, and that it costs, man, about 2/3 less, and plus bring up our standard of living, making it easier to rehabilitate, you know, they would lose their jobs.
They're leaving doors open again. They left the minimum and the maximum doors to the yard open last night till 9:30. You see, now they're just waiting for somebody to make a move in the yard to violate the security so they can send the state police in here, right? So it's up to us to advise and educate all our brothers out there so no one can fall into this trap and destroy everything that we've got working for us here, you know?
We gotta keep always, like, we have 2 steps ahead of them.
Yeah. It's not just the cons that are being harassed right now and undermined, it's also the cadet screws that are coming in here, the new screws, and the observers. Now, the guards are slicing their tires out in the parking lot and cutting their water hoses and, you know, just harassing.
That's a crime, isn't it?
They're committing crimes against them, right. That's what they're doing to the cadets and the observers that are coming in here. See, to undermine it, to undermine the whole movement, to get the cadets to quit and walk out, and the observers to quit and walk out so they can come back in and initiate their reign of terror again, so they can go stalking the corridors with their blackjacks and pulling guys out of the cells after 10 o'clock count.
The goon squad, right? They all take a detour and go down to 10 block.
Yeah, right.
Now you talk about control, what about those guys up there? They get beat up every night, you understand me? Now it was in the paper, and the cadets observed this. And our observers observed that the marshals taking the guy, I forget his name, you know his name, but you was up there, right? Whitehurst, right? They beat him up in front of the cadets. Locked Charlie Kraft or somebody up in a cell until they took care of to what they call their business.
If it wasn't for them observers, it would have never hit the papers. In fact, them police there have been suspended.
I personally believe it isn't only the screws here in Massachusetts. I think it's all over New England and maybe from across the country are calling this Doyle, the president of the Guards Union, and telling him to tell the guards to play games with us as often as they can so they can break us. Right now we have the unity. That's the only thing that come out good during the December 29th lockup was Perel united us. We never was disunited in all the years that this prison was here, 17 years. And now the whole country, all the other prisoners are watching us, and they want to know what our final outcome is going to be here at Walpole. Are the screws going to be able to walk the corridors, or are they just going to stay in the control? Are we going to have a say of what kind of programs come in here, educational, vocational, and what have you?
At the same time that the NPRA took responsibility for all functions inside Walpole, prisoners' rights groups from Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont, Connecticut, and Maine assembled outside the state capitol in Concord, New Hampshire. Over 30 groups have now united as a coalition, the New England Prisoners Association. One of these groups is the NPRA, which has outside chapters as well as inside unions at Walpole and at Cranston, Rhode Island. As their first public action, they were marching in support of 260 men undergoing a lockup at New Hampshire State Prison in Concord. The prison officials had begun the lockup at about the same time the Walpole guards had walked out and the NPRA had become a strong force. The lockup was now in its 7th week. One of the prisoners we had met in Walpole had been in the Concord prison during this lockup.
I was transferred from here up to the state prison to stand trial in Concord, New Hampshire. During this time, we sort of hit the tail end of this lockup that they had, and it was a carbon copy of the one that we had here under parole. I guess they went under the same pretense as parole did. They said it was a contraband search, but what they actually did was strip them in of all their personal belongings.
While you were there, was during the lockup, was there any observers there, any outside community groups getting in the institution?
No, just personal visits, family only.
Was there a lot of damage done during the riot they had up in Concord, New Hampshire? That's what we read in the paper here.
Well, there wasn't any riot up there while I was there. The fellows were screaming a lot at night, and they wanted to get out of their cells, and it came out in the paper that there was a riot up there the following day. But there was no riot. No riot at all.
Why do you think the papers call it a riot?
I think to snow the public, to keep the public thinking that there was a lot of trouble in this place and that they had to keep these men locked in. But there was no riot up there, and they don't have to keep these men locked in.
Can the men in Concord get organized like the NPRA did in Walpole?
There's a lot of smart fellows up there, and that could lead the rest, but I think they have to have some outside help. We had down here the ad hoc committee, the car cap committee, and quite a number of others that were fighting for us on the outside that at one time we didn't even know about. And when we did find out about it, unified the men inside. And I think the same thing could be done up there. And I think it's needed.
Less than 3 weeks after the New Hampshire lockup ended, newspapers reported that a riot at Walpole had forced the administration to call in the state police. One Boston newspaper reconstructed the order of events in the following phrases. May 20th, 1973. The inmates broke through hollow cinder block walls. Acting Superintendent Wakovich said the inmates rushed into the hospital section and overpowered correction officers, driving out the chief physician and the chief medic. 3 inmates were wounded with shotgun pellets fired by correction officers trying to clear the corridors to enable firefighters to enter. At 6:45 a.m., armed with shotguns, tear gas grenades, gas masks, clubs, and riot helmets, the 180 troopers moved inside, followed by 45 correction officers with clubs and riot helmets and police dogs. When we came back to Walpole, we could still see the large holes that had been made in the walls on either side of the central grills that separate the 2 areas of cell blocks. Some of the holes were still waiting for repair, but most of them had already been patched with plywood. The newspaper reports had not specified at what time the grills had been closed. They had been kept open during the guards' strike. They were open again now that the lockup had ended. We also found that cell block 9, the former death row which had been closed at the demand of the NPRA, had once again been used to contain prisoners. We found the guards back at their jobs, in the corridors and also in the segregation blocks. At the time of the shakedown, the civilian observers had been excluded. Now they were inside once more on a regular basis. What the newspaper called a spontaneous but inevitable riot had resulted from a disagreement between the prisoners and the acting superintendent over the procedure for implementing a 48-hour shakedown.
We had all the news media here, we had a press conference, and we asked for the 48-hour shakedown, invited District Attorney Burke and the crew to come in. So there was no hassles about the shakedown. The confusion was in the way he wrote the memo out.
This memorandum was not recognizing the NPRA, and they were going to do numerous and other things on visits, pertaining to visiting in the yard, and all nonsense. And we had a peaceful demonstration that we refused to lock in the cells until we seen somebody with authority. And what happened is there's two grills out here separating maximum and minimum. And these two grills were opened all night until the 11 o'clock shift come on. And about at 12 o'clock at night, they closed these two doors so that guys were trapped.
Rumors were running around that massive destruction was occurring in the prison, and various representatives went around the institution and found out that this wasn't so. Like one time we were called and told that blocks 4 and block 8 had ripped off all the panels, and the guys in block 6 were using grappling hooks to try to climb up into the galleries. We went down to the maximum section and found, most of the guys were already gone to bed. Now, this is about 3 or 4 times that this occurred, these rumors, and not once during the night did Wakovich come in. Now, this man's the warden of the prison. He just picked a block out at random or something and informed the guy that picked up the telephone that the state cops were coming in. I says, what the hell are you talking about? He says, that's it. He says, you've had all the time you're going to have. We're coming in. So they're getting panicky because you got the state troopers coming in and they're caught in between the gates. And the other inmates are concerned about their friends. They don't want to abandon them to the mercy of the state police. And then he changed up on us and he says, everybody got to go back to his own individual room. And that started the panic off. He was saying since 12 or 1 o'clock that the state cops were coming in. They didn't actually come in until early in the morning. But everyone was of the opinion that they were already on their way through the door coming in. And then guys put the hole through the walls to get back to their own sections. Then afterwards, it was about 2 o'clock, Peter called me from the minimum section to get some guys down there to cover the hospital and, keep things cool on that end.
There was a couple of screws behind control with shotguns and some other kind of weapons. There was no fire engines here or state police here at that time. And they just started firing right through the glass at them. There was big holes in the glass. And they also said that they fired one warning shot up in the air, but there's no marks or anything up in the air. They also said they were firing rubber bullets when everybody was hit with pellets. They were all stuck in their legs, covered.
Plastic pellets.
Yeah, but they were hitting...
Bird shot. They had metal ones.
Yeah.
Metal and plastic.
Anyways, when they went down, we went into the hospital and grabbed a stretcher. Sent 2 guys down there to pick them up. And as soon as the guys went down with the stretcher, he was picking them up. One of them fired again, and he got hit all on the side. And he went down. So we sent out some more guys to pick out those guys. And finally, they stopped shooting. They let us pick them up and bring them to the hospital. So when we got them to the hospital, we just locked the doors and went into the hospital. And the doctor was there by then. And we just let nobody at all go into the hospital area other than cons that were hurt or if a screw was hurt. Other than that, we wouldn't let the state police in or other screws in. And we just let people in that were hurt.
Well, I was in the hospital at the time. I was a patient in the hospital. One of the inmates that was inside the hospital that I remember. The troopers was trying to bust into the door, and they told them that they had heart patients in there, and they said they didn't care they was coming in. And they said, well, we're going to stand right here. We're not going to let you in because there's a lot of sick men in here. But if it hadn't been for those 4 inmates that was there at that time, I think they would have busted those doors open and just wreaked havoc on the inmates that were sick in the hospital there.
Like Wakovich was funny in a sense. Come over the PA system and, and he repeated this about 3 or 4 times. No one was going to be hurt. So now in block 6 they came in, and some of the doors that couldn't close wouldn't shut. State cops come in and buff the guys up, dragged them out of their rooms, threw their radios and TVs right off the tier, 3rd tier and whatnot. There must have been about 60 of them. And they come in and they just crucified us. Stripped us naked, tied our hands around behind our backs, and sapped up guys, threw us down flights of stairs. We had to go down a gauntlet of screws of the state cops. Representative Owens had to see this. What was that, Walter Anderson?
Yeah.
When I was in the hospital, he admitted seeing me getting tossed down a flight of stairs. Then he made us walk barefoot the whole length of the corridor to block 10, which was all glass all over the floor. So everybody had glass stuck in their feet and whatnot. And keep remembering Wakovich, no one's going to get hurt.
These interviews were recorded in June. Shortly afterwards, the administration of the prison changed hands. The acting superintendent was replaced by the head of the uniformed branch of the state police. The State Commissioner of Corrections was also forced to resign. The civilian observer program was again suspended. It has not been resumed. Inside Walpole, the prisoners voted by a majority of 94% to keep the NPRA as their representative body instead of creating an inmate council. The Lieutenant Governor of the state announced that he had allocated $500,000 for repairs leading to security at Walpole. A work strike by the prisoners was answered by another lockup. The men were to be let out only for meals. They began a hunger strike. The newspapers reported that the exact nature of the prisoners' grievances was not known.